And we are live. Welcome to Live at Epiphan. It must be Thursday afternoon because we're here. And joining me today is none other than Epiphan's own Tobi Tungl. Welcome to the show.
Hey, hey Dan, glad to be here. And it is Thursday, I think. It feels like sometimes it's Friday,
I
but it's
hope it
definitely
is.
Thursday.
Otherwise, we've made a big mistake. Okay, I got to ask you straight off the bat, what's the t shirt? I need the story.
Oh, this shirt. So, in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, there's a brewery called Ordock Brewery, and they have a beer called Reclamation, and it's what water wants to be. So, it's one of my favorite beers, one of my favorite shirts. And I figured since we're doing the graphic tee on the live show, I was going to come prepared to represent the Mitten State for the United States.
Well, we should have I don't know, a craft beer bracket on this show or something. Maybe George Herbert, when he gets back, can help us with that. He's pulling for Whippersnapper Brewery lately, so I don't know how that compares to what water wants to be like, but I'm sure we could debate
I
heavily on
love it.
that.
I feel like we got to do that in person coming up too.
Absolutely. So why don't we first kind of introduce you a little bit? So you are heading up sales at Epiphan, and you have a background all through the AV world. Maybe you can just tell us a bit about like where you join us from in relation to the AV industry and your path.
Sure. So I've spent probably, this is going to age me, but probably 20 years in the pro AV integration world. So most recently came from a wonderful company called Conference Technologies, which obviously does sell Epiphan, which is a big bonus. And part of my role here at Epiphan is to lead the sales team for North America and really focusing on coaching and optimizing that team. My life here at Epiphan allows me to do a variety of different things. But being able to really grow a world-class sales organization with the best team and really innovative solutions is why I love my job and why I love AV in general. Pro AV to me is kind of my home and has been for a long, long time.
Awesome. And we were nerding out on some tech topics leading up to this show. So I'm going to put you through a little quick rapid fire here, okay?
Oh boy,
Bear with me. Okay,
bring it on.
Mac or PC?
Mac, 100%.
Okay, HDMI or SDI?
Ooh, HDMI.
Okay, what is your favorite audio company? Period.
Sure.
Sure. Okay, are you using Shure right now?
I am using Shure right now. I've got a podcast microphone tied to some fancy software on my machine that feeds back into this stream. Yes, I love Shure. I'm a fanboy of Shure. I hate to admit that in live TV, but I just did.
There you go. Also, just to pivot a little bit, I've been following your various social channels. You are pretty active on Twitter, but most interesting to me is when I check out your Instagram and I see your cycling career here. I don't know if we can put that on screen share, but it seems like every weekend you're on a new adventure. So you got to tell me about a little bit about how you got into cycling and what you've got on your docket coming up soon.
Sure. I do like the fact that you call it a cycling career. I wish it was my cycling career, but it's more of just a weekend warrior fun. I'm a mountain biker and a gravel guy, and probably 10 or 11 years ago, I got back into competitive racing and training, and I've got the largest one-day gravel race coming up this weekend, Barrier Bay, and then the weekend after that, I've got a 130-mile bike race, and the weekend after that's 100, and then a couple 200 and 300-mile bike races this summer. So long days and the bike saddle kind of keep me happy and keep me focused on the craziness that I call what I do on a daily basis, which is technology, family, and cycling. So there's some good ones. You didn't pull up any of the really funny ones like the Shea Lounge or anything. I'm surprised.
Yeah, well, I saw this. I don't know where you found this couch out in the
Oh yeah.
building. It's not the Shea Lounge, but I mean, I'm sure
No.
any seat is comfortable after you've been in the saddle for 300 miles.
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, Salsa, which is a cycling company, created this Chase the Shea Lounge thing through a bunch of races. So it's been retired, but a lot of times if we find an old couch on the side of the road, we'll take a picture with it just for fun. And that was on the side of the road last fall.
And can we show this one too? I mean, I think I saw another one where like your bike it looked like a clay sculpture, not, a traditional bicycle. So, yeah, this is what gravel riding's all about, I take it.
Some days. We hope not most days, but this is actually from Mid-South 2020, right when the pandemic was rearing its ugly face. And down in Oklahoma, in Stillwater, when it rains and it starts to dry, the mud becomes very tacky and sticks to everything like it does in that photo. So it's a rowdy good time.
You need a good pressure washer, and not just for your bike, but probably for yourself after you're done one of these things.
I did get into the hotel shower in my full kit to rinse off, just because it was stuck to all the zippers and I couldn't get anything unzipped. Yes.
Awesome. Well, I don't know if I'll ever be ready to go on one of these adventures with you, but maybe we should live stream one of these sometime, stick a camera on you and see what we can capture. It looks pretty exciting.
I love that. I was actually just talking on Twitter yesterday about drones being able to track you when you're cycling. I want to do that. Good Bluetooth headset. Maybe I can do our next meeting, from the bike.
That would
Maybe.
be super cool. We have seen Mathieu, one of our colleagues, join one of our GIS meetings from a traveling speedboat. I'm not sure if that was just a green screen or not, but he's usually joins us from some interesting locations. So maybe you can try to one up him somehow.
I love that. I don't know if I could one up him though. He's pretty good.
Yeah. So speaking of streaming from interesting locations and remote, today we have a topic that's kind of related, which is all about cloud video production. We wanted to kind of dive into this world a little bit. So just kind of to start it off, like, we've been hearing a lot of, especially in the last couple of years, with the way businesses, organizations, and even live events have had to pivot to more remote workflows and remote contribution, and maybe not traveling as much and trying to do things from different locations, bring people together. Cloud video production has, I would say, become a trend that's a lot more visible than maybe it was before. Have you noticed that in some ways?
Absolutely. I think the pandemic forced people to really get into that a lot sooner than perhaps they were really planning on. But that cloud piece is so critical to live events and really a lot of organizations that are trying to understand what to do with video and, remote meetings and people all across the world that are actually, working for organizations. We're a great example of that with people that we have spread out everywhere as well. That cloud-based workflow is super important to not only what we're doing today, but what we're going to do in the next probably 5 to 10 years.
Um, so when we talk about cloud-based workflow, like, is this something that we're seeing now, or is it something that always existed and it's just we're noticing it more now?
Oh, I think it existed for a while. I just don't think pro AV guys, for that matter, have really paid much attention to it until recently.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know for our show right now, we have fully transitioned to cloud-based workflows, and we're always experimenting with like new ways of doing things. So I think I've got a graphic here just showing how we're pulling this particular show together. Let me see if I can pull up an image. Here we go. For those who wonder, like, this is how we often produce our show, is by using hardware encoders and sending that content to the studio. But then the studio, which is right here, can be completely controlled remotely through the cloud. Here you see we've got some layers, and this is where you might want to use something like Zoom or Teams for a back channel. And today I think we're actually using a couple different methodologies. I'm streaming into the studio using SRT, whereas I think Toby, you're just on Teams, and we're extracting your signal.
Yeah, yeah. I came into this via Teams remotely from my home office just to keep it a little bit different and show people that you don't necessarily have to be on the same platform as well.
Yeah, it's nice. Different people have different solutions that are going to work for them, right? I just so happen to have like an encoder, a Pearl 2 set up on my desk, which makes it like pretty quick and convenient to set up an SRT stream. But some people are Teams preference, some people are Zoom preference. It can get a little bit of a patchwork when you start bringing together lots of different stakeholders in a production.
Absolutely. And it needs to be easy, right? For the people that are putting together that show, it needs to be pretty seamless from that perspective and making sure the audio is synced and the video is coming in clean and you've got all that really good production piece that's happening in the cloud. Otherwise, if it looks pretty, haphazardly put together, people get a bad taste in their mouth really fast.
It's funny because over the last couple years, I've seen so many poor quality productions, but not from who you'd think. It's usually, the big broadcasters who have the multi-million dollar budgets, and then I see them on webcams, famous people on webcams that like have terrible lighting. And I know George Herbert rants about this all the time, but you'll be watching like cable news and someone can't even get a good connection, and it looks like they're just trying to like scrape right out of a Skype call or something. You usually have to go to like the pro event guys before you start seeing some really high quality polished looking solutions. Like, why is that? What would be your guess?
My total guess is people think it's, easy. They can look their laptop open. The best are the people that open their laptop and have like the down nose view, right? And you're looking straight up their nose, or they've got a lamp behind them and not realizing that it's giving them the black silhouette. It's little things like that that people need to be coached through, and really, understanding a little bit of those tweaks can make a huge difference on how you look and how you see outside of bandwidth, right? There's a lot of little tweaks and known nuances that can make or break what you look like on those kind of live streams.
Yeah. I also wonder about like what kind of added capabilities might exist in the cloud that like a producer could help with some of those things. Things like, getting the sound levels just right, maybe improving poor lighting or balancing colors or, doing a chroma key, something where you could have an expert who's not on premise, who's at a different location, being able to solve some of those problems.
Well, that's actually a good idea. I mean, you could have a virtual producer, for that lack of a better description, sitting in, say, Ottawa, and I'm in Michigan, and we've got, different folks in California, and they're working through that. It saves them the time of putting them on a plane, travel, whatever that might be, and they can really work in that real-time environment to help them, get that best picture and the best audio experience for what they're doing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, I was just looking at some of the ways that things have been done in recent memory. I was reading an article about the recent Winter Olympics and like what the international, like, I think they call it the IBC, the International Broadcast Studio. But the Olympic broadcast infrastructure is massive, and it's often pushing the boundaries of like what technologies we might see come to the prosumer market in like 5 years. But it was interesting because most of their what used to be like hardware capabilities are moving into the cloud. So they're like distributing, they're using the cloud to sort of distribute and then de-aggregate the content for various channels. So like different countries will receive the streams that they need. So they've sort of become a centralized hub. Is that kind of like the first tier of like signal routing or being a hub master of a lot of different sources and being able to distribute them? Is that kind of the low hanging fruit with the cloud?
I think so, right? Because the sports arenas and things, they're kind of driving that need right now, from trying to get that message and that event out to as many people as they can, because that's where they're going to get advertising dollars and marketing people engaged to help support what they're after. And it's interesting to start seeing some of that as it expands outside of perhaps just a regional focus to try to get more people globally engaged on that kind of event.
Yeah. So I want to ask you about like maybe some of the apprehensions to cloud. So, we've seen a transition to cloud happen in other industries, whether you look at, I don't know, finance, whether you look at, even certain aspects of buying insurance for your car, or whether it's managing your banking or whatever it may be. People are kind of used to using the cloud to file their taxes or different things like that. Do you feel like there might be any resistance to that within the AV space or within the video space for various reasons?
Yeah, I do, right? I mean, we're all guilty of doing our taxes online and banking and everything else. I mean, that's kind of a norm and part of our world, right? But if you look at what the pro AV world is trying to do, especially with video, like, and I'll use live events guys as an example. They want a box in a rack sitting next to them that they can touch and feel and actually and see it with their own eyes. We were behind the eight ball from that perspective, in my opinion, because as things grow and expand, it's less about the hardware and more about what you're doing for that overall production piece there. And we've got some work to do to get them on board with that kind of mindset because they're just used to that piece sitting right next to them.
Mm.
Dialing back into like the integration world for conference rooms and things, again, it's when you start looking at your typical AV integrator, they've been kind of instilled for many years to sell a piece of hardware, and getting them to understand cloud and be embraced in what that client needs and solutions really bring to that client for their business needs is something we've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah. I wonder if it really has to be so scary because I don't know if we'll ever completely get away from hardware. I mean, we're always going to need a camera, right? Like we're always going to need a microphone to capture audio and a camera to capture image. So is there really any way to truly cut hardware out? Like doesn't won't cloud be like a complement to the hardware? I wonder.
I think so. To your point, right? Like, so this show is produced kind of on a cloud today, right? And I've got a microphone that's tied to my laptop that's pushed out to the world here. So I think there'll always be a balance between that, and there'll be understanding what you need from that, right? The more complex systems are definitely going to need a bigger piece of gear sitting next to them for different kind of scenarios, what they're doing for multiple camera shots or video shots. But the real big upside to cloud, in my opinion, is the reduction in travel and making sure that you have that right person in the right place at the right time. Simply put, you could have a producer sitting in Detroit, Michigan, or Miami, Florida, or Phoenix, Arizona, or wherever in the world that could do 3 shows a day versus getting on an airplane and flying around and losing a week of travel just to support that type of event. Being in the cloud really allows them to do both.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point. I want to share just a clip here. This is from just last week. Epiphan had hosted a symposium about the lecture capture industry, and we're able to gather guests from a bunch of different locations. That's like, you get that thought leadership panel together of folks who, ordinarily it would have been probably difficult to get these people all in the same room. And now you're able to create like an interactive experience, not only, you know, with each other, but with the audience as well. And, you've now something that might have traditionally been like an on premise event in a hotel ballroom or at some other conference, you're now able to sort of micro host these sort of panels and thought leadership experiences.
Absolutely. And this is a great example of being able to bring a lot of different people into a lot of different people's, home offices, work offices. And something that just sparked my memory here is at a recent event I was at for NSCA, one of the speakers wasn't able to make it because of all the ice storm that came in, and they actually brought her in via a stream to the actual audience in the ballroom. So she was still able to be there. They were able to get her producer on the phone and actually work through that live as well. Those kind of scenarios, I think, are becoming more and more common to really allow things to be easier and deliver it in a much more consistent way.
What are some of the challenges you would see in that kind of scenario where you have an on premise event coupled with perhaps remote sources or remote guests, and you're trying to sort of bridge that on premise and remote capability?
Honestly, you have to have a really good event MC that can work through that because it can be a little different if you're trying to introduce people on a video call that maybe has a second delay versus handling Q&A, working through some of that. We're okay at that, I think, as an industry, and we can get a lot better. But I think it would be really, really cool to have a bunch of people come together and have both a mix of in-person speakers do things like that and remote. But to get there, we've got to really focus on, I think, that production piece, both in the cloud and on site to ensure that that experience for the remote people, they feel like they're in the room. And
Mm-hmm.
then the people that are in the room feel like that person is standing on stage with them.
Yeah, I mean, certainly you don't want to create a disparity between the experience that a remote attendee and an in-person attendee have. Like, for example, in something like a Q&A where maybe you want to take questions from the room and still be able to take questions from people online, like how do you manage that? Like, can you feed audio from your remote guests into the room? How do you ensure that you don't have audio feedback issues? It gets complicated when you start thinking about the audio, just the audio routing of some of these kind of setups.
Yeah, and you got to have a really good audio guy sitting in the corner to make sure all that stuff's coming together, right?
Yeah.
One of the better events that I was at recently, they actually had a push-to-talk microphone about every third seat,
Yeah.
and so they had a little bit of a delay to prevent some of that. I've seen it as basic as, are you familiar with the catch box microphones that are like a padded box you can throw around a room?
I've heard of this. Maybe you can describe it because I've never seen it myself.
So it's think of, if anybody has kids, this will make a little more sense, but it's like an 8 inch by 8 inch padded block with a microphone on top, and it's designed to be thrown around, and it's a wireless microphone. So you can put your own company logo on it. It can be, I think, red, blue, and yellow from the standard colors, but it's meant to be very casual in an environment where you can throw that down to somebody. Yeah, there you go. From a Q&A perspective, and it's pretty slick, and it's rather inexpensive for what it is, and it works really, really well.
What a cool idea. So it's soft enough that you can pitch this around the room and make sure you're,
Yeah.
that is awesome. I could see that being useful in like a lecture environment as well, in a classroom maybe, and create some engagement is what I think is kind of a nice opportunity as well. It makes it more fun.
Yeah, yeah, you're not holding a handheld microphone, or maybe it makes you feel uneasy if you have to do that, where you've kind of got a cushy pillow microphone, for lack of a better idea,
Yeah.
and it keeps it really casual for people that are asking questions.
Have you seen any other cool, cool new tech or cool ideas to sort of improve the experiences of events, whether it's in a room or whether it's remote or, is where is the innovation happening? Is it on the camera side, the cloud side, all of the above? Where do you think, what trends are you seeing?
I think a lot of current focus, from what I'm seeing, is on the camera side that's going to be supporting what's happening in the cloud. I mean, if you look at the recent acquisition of One Beyond by Crestron, One Beyond has always been a leader in the AI field for auto tracking and auto framing cameras, where you don't have to wear the old IR lanyard from 20 years ago when you're trying to do a speech. And that kind of technology, reading facial features and reading that room is really important, and understanding what that's going to do to the cloud is really where we're going. Because if you can take that kind of camera, plug it into a laptop or a UC engine for that matter, and have no need for someone to sit in there and track you in that space, that is going to be killer. It just really is.
Yeah, we've played with a few of these cameras, and the tracking is pretty impressive. Like it can actually recognize who the speaker is, because like you can imagine how the camera might get confused if you had people standing up or sitting down or different presenters or these kind of things. Like a lot of this, I guess, is hardware plus AI almost, right? And you just
Yeah,
saw there the guy
their
walked through
cameras.
and the camera wasn't tricked by it, right?
Well, so there's a hidden trick in the back of that software. You can actually have tracking zones set up, but the only caveat is if you walk outside of that tracking zone, it's going to lose sight of you. But for the most part, it works really, really well, and it can have a couple different tie-ins. They've got an Automate VX system that's pretty slick that will actually do audio tracking for multiple cameras in a space to actually
Mm-hmm.
give you more of a one-on-one feel in a meeting like we're having now, in like a boardroom environment where you might have, instead of one camera at the end of the table, you've got 6 or 7 smaller cameras placed strategically in the room to get that more one-on-one feel for a larger space.
Very interesting. I've heard of similar concepts with audio too, and it capturing a room, like using array microphones so that maybe you don't even need a catch box. You just have strategically positioned beamformed microphones in different strategic areas in the room to create
Oh, you're,
that
you're
sort of.
getting back to my sure love here right now.
Oh, there you go.
They're
Yeah.
yeah, their beamforming microphones are pretty slick from that perspective, because you can set up the same kind of pickup zones, and it's a much more natural feel. I mean, you don't have to necessarily have a handheld or a lav when you're walking around teaching. It'll pick it up. It's very common in a conference room or a small classroom where you can have everybody be a part of that remote session and not necessarily worry about, am I close enough to the microphone? Am I too close to the microphone? All that kind of scenario.
Mm-hmm.
It's come a long way, and it's a very, very cool technology.
Mm-hmm. Are there opportunities to sort of take these emerging in-room technologies and get more out of them using whether it's AI or cloud? Like how? I always think it's interesting because like I'm looking at the cell phone cameras these days. I have to get a new phone soon. Mine's getting old and the screen's cracked. it looks like the cameras are all the same, but it's like the software on the phone now that's actually becoming far more important than the number of megapixels in the sensor, right? Like, is this, are we going to see a similar trend with video where it's like, hey, yeah, whatever camera works for you, obviously you might want to tick a couple boxes with tracking, but like all of that software or that AI could be powered offsite? Like, is that realistic to imagine?
So, first question: are you getting an iPhone or an Android?
I might have. So that's another. So I know you're the Mac guy. So in my house, my wife
Yeah.
is more akin to Mac, and I'm more of the PC Android guy. But I'm always a little
Okay.
tempted to cross over to the other side because it looks like a nice experience. But I'm not sure yet. I'm still shopping.
That's fair. I've done both. I am currently on an iPhone, but I think you're right. If you look at, I think the last Samsung Galaxy or whatever it was, as well as the iPhone, had three cameras on it, but they're all doing pretty much the same thing from a pure capture perspective. That software and allowing them to do, different portrait and blur the background, that's where I think the AI is exploding because let's be honest, at some point you're going to have a 1 terabyte storage on your phone because they can't take 24 megapixel photos. By the time I got done taking pictures of my kids and my dog and my wife, I would have no room left on my phone to do my daily tasks. So I think the AI piece is going to start to really expand simply because that's what we're, as consumers pushing to see. We want an easier, snap picture kind of scenario. Gone are the days of the Polaroid photos, although they're still out there. And I think people really want to have a cool, professional, easy experience off of their cell phones.
Yeah. Oh, I think you're exactly right. It's funny. I'm like a bit of a camera nerd, and I still have my good old trusty Canon 5D full frame DSLR, but it sits on the shelf more and more often because, and it's not because it doesn't take great photos. Like I actually love the photos it takes. They're incredibly shallow depth of field. I've got the full frame sensor. I've got full control over every aspect of the image. But to be able to take my photos off of that camera, I have to take my card out of the camera, put it in a card reader, transfer them to my computer. Now I've got to like actually downscale the photos because they're too big, too much resolution. I can't share them anywhere. So like just the workflow of getting that photo from my camera out to my friends and family or however I want to share it on WhatsApp or whatever. It's taking so much longer, and I find I'm reaching for that camera less and less because of just how much quicker it is to get the results I want using a phone or something.
Yeah, I'm not a photographer guy, but I believe some of the newer cameras have that Wi-Fi enabled piece to it that does take down some of that workflow to like you just talked about, but it's still it's a lot of additional steps versus take a picture, you're on your Wi-Fi at home or your Bluetooth or whatever, and it's uploading to, your storage drive at home or it's uploading to the cloud, for different scenarios and actually allowing you to share that at a much lower resolution because it's impossible to share a 25 meg photo to your mom or your grandma or your
Yeah.
sister without them trying to, open a file they can't open, right? So I think that more and more of these manufacturers are going to figure out a way that it's simply tied to Wi-Fi, tied to a cloud instance. A lot of that processing is happening remotely, where then it's an easy share experience for you for family and a lot of different files for that matter.
I wanted to share this just on that note. This is an interesting cloud connected application, and this is from frame.io. It's called Camera to Cloud, which is one of their new products that they offer. And essentially, what it is it's tying their already beloved photo and video review platform and sort of creating a one-to-one connection with the cameras where you take a photo or you make a video, and within moments you've taken that image and you've transferred it to the cloud so you can start doing post-production without any delay. And in this case you've got big beefy cameras that are shooting perhaps raw or extremely high bit rate video files, but you're getting the proxy to that editor, the moment that it's captured. And maybe even some of the crew on the film set don't need to be there because they can monitor remotely. I just thought this was cool. I don't know if you have any thoughts on this, seeing something like this.
This is actually pretty cool. I mean, if you think about if they're shooting a commercial or they're trying to shoot a promo video and that file gets uploaded immediately, they can make adjustments right then and there versus 3 or 4 days later when it's actually in post-production and they realize, hey, I should have moved the camera 3 feet to the left or I wanted a different angle on the shot. This is a very powerful tool. I mean, outside of not having necessarily such a large crew on site, but being able to dig into that and see it and perhaps get a final solution back to your client faster, which is the all the world we're living in, right? I think that's a huge plus.
Yeah, I mean, speed and efficiency is always important, but also being able to like engage more people. If you can get your video editor, in real time reviewing footage, they could potentially make a call over to the set. Hey, can you move the lamp 2 feet to the left? Like that kind of collaboration maybe wouldn't have been possible otherwise.
Oh, 100%. And it's perhaps those guys would never be on that set to begin with, right? They're
Yeah.
they're always post-production guys that are looking at those files. So it's a pretty powerful tool that would probably give that client a much better final post-edit experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Yeah, so just curious, in your experience at Epiphan so far, you see some of the trends and some of the things that Epiphan is talking to you. What has you excited on the roadmap right now? What kind of things can we expect in the near future from Epiphan, and how are you seeing things?
I might get in trouble for this, but I'm super pumped for what we've got cooking that's going to be announced at NAB. We've got a lot of really cool things. Probably the biggest really thing I'm focusing on here is the cloud offering that we have, how to take that to market. Obviously, that's one of the reasons we've got this show today. Expanding what the offerings are, expanding that customer base, expanding a lot of different functionality of what we're doing for Epiphan as a whole, and bringing that to a much broader audience, as well as, well, I'll just stop right there.
I know you need to be a little tight-lipped about some of what's coming, but you did touch on something that I think we can share, which is that yes, we will be at NAB Show 2022 in April. And in fact, I can even confirm that we will be at booth C9917. So pull out your NAB map and you can find us. But just send a note over to info@epiphan.com and we'll be happy to meet up with anyone at NAB who would like to hang out and take some time at our booth. Um, there's a lot to be excited about in the near future. I don't know how much we can reveal just yet, but I do want to share one segment that we always do on live at Epiphan Show, which is in the kitchen. So why don't we head over to the kitchen, Toby, and we can have a sip of coffee.
Okay.
Okay, so wanted to share a little bit of this. This is the Epiphan blog. We've got some new blog articles. Just a quick shout out. Flipped classroom. This is interesting. So, education wise, a lot of classroom traditionally you get your lecture in the classroom, then you go home and you do your homework. Well, flipped classroom is essentially inverting that relationship. You are now doing your lectures, learning your content at home, probably through video, and then maximizing your time with the instructor in the classroom so that you can do more of the one-on-one engagement and like go deeper on the topic. This blog article is coming to us from Martin. I just think it's like so interesting and makes abundant sense in the context of education why you would do this. Have you heard of this terminology before, flipped classroom, or is this new, Toby?
I have heard of it. I've got two kids that do a little bit of this with the hybrid learning experience that we have in our local schools. One thing that I really truly love about this is then, whether you're in K through 12 or in higher education, you can actually learn on your timeline and your terms because everybody absorbs things differently. And then when you take notes in these 3 things or 10 things you really want to dig in on, then you hit and you go to that instructor for that live one-on-one experience and you actually get that feedback that you need that's going to make you more successful and a lot faster for that matter. It's a very powerful tool. I think the pandemic probably pushed us to get there a little faster, but it is something that I think a lot of schools, are really going to be embracing as we see the next 5 to 7 years.
I wish we had this when I was in school because I was definitely the guy who was like struggling to like take notes. I was more of a, hey, just try to listen and remember kind of thing than like taking meticulous notes during a class. I like the idea of like with a video, I can just refer back to it whenever I need to. And I don't have to rely on my memory as much as like actually engaging with the material, if that makes any sense. So.
Absolutely. And if you're not, 100% engaged for that day, you
Yeah.
could only get 50% of that lecture, right? That
Yeah.
video allows you to be, I'm going to sleep in today, or I'm going to come back to
Yeah.
this at 7 o'clock tonight. I
Yeah.
think
Big
that's really
time.
important.
Yeah. I'll tell you a quick story. I did win an award in one of my film classes. I did. I studied film, and I did win best in class snore, which is not is probably not the award you want to win. But like we would watch these, Orson Welles films that are 3 hours long, black and white, and you'd go into the classroom to watch the film, which
Wow.
on an afternoon Wednesday, I struggled a little bit with that. I would always go rent the movie after class and watch it at home on my own time when I could like, make popcorn or something, make some snacks. But
They
yeah,
didn't let you have popcorn in class? I think that would have made it a little more interesting.
right. I think they should have mandatory popcorn machines in all film classes.
Get you
Yeah.
get you that little wheel in popcorn machine, put it in the corner, some
Yep.
butter. I think you're game on.
Just the smell would be enough to keep you going.
I agree. Little sprinkle there, you'd be good to go.
I did want to share one other happening around Epiphan while we're in the kitchen here, Toby. This is a post that just went up on our LinkedIn. And this is kind of an important subject for Epiphan because we do have a lot of friends and family from the region. Epiphan is very supportive of the people in Ukraine and everything that's happening there. And it's a really complicated, complex situation. And a lot of people are looking to, you know, find other opportunities in other parts of the world. And Epiphan is supportive of this. I know that the government of Canada has like I think it's a 3-year work visa for anyone who needs to leave that area. And Epiphan is supportive of anyone who would like to come to Canada and work. And this is something that comes right down from the top, from our CEO, Mike Sandler. So if you do check out our LinkedIn, there's some resources there. And if you know anyone who works in AV or technology or any of the related things that Epiphan's involved with, please do reach out to us and don't hesitate to share this post as well. I know that that's something that a lot of the staff here at Epiphan have been thinking about. So, yeah, check out those links on LinkedIn.
I love that message too, Dan. It is so great. And when Mike told us about that, it is something that I think is really cool as an organization that we're doing. So I shared it as well. I think it's really important to get that message out to as many people as we can.
Yeah, thanks, Toby. That's awesome. So heading into the coming weeks, we are getting ready for NAB. So, stay tuned with us here at Epiphan. We're going to have a lot of awesome announcements coming very soon. You can find us, of course, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, here on YouTube. But also, if you want to stay really tuned in, you should follow Toby on Twitter. What's your Twitter handle, Toby?
It's at Tobi Tungl, so TOBITUNGL.
Yeah, and you are up on the trends on a daily basis. Good source of info for all things Epiphan and industry related. And yeah, stay with us. If you want to ask us a question anytime, reach out to us, info@epiphan.com. And Toby, how was your first experience with Live at Epiphan? How'd it go?
This is pretty cool. I hope that I didn't screw too many things up and you'll have me back because I had a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
We just need to get you the fanciest green screen possible so that you don't have to rely on your video conferencing software for your key.
I already ordered one on Amazon. It should be here tomorrow, a day late. That happens occasionally. So next time, I will be fully prepped and ready. I promise.
Brilliant. Well, we'll keep setting you up, and until next time, we'll look forward to having you back on the show. And thanks for joining me. And we'll see everybody in a couple weeks. So long.
See you guys.